You're listening to the LSG Sports Network, the authority on Texas high school football. Welcome to the Texas High School Football Coaches Show on Lone Star Gridiron. I'm Chris Daly, and it's my belief that the men that make up the fraternity of Texas high school football coaches are much more than a bunch of thick-necked guys with whistles. They do so much more than teach technique and the X's and O's of football. They take young boys and change them into young men of character. They get kids to believe in themselves, to trust others, and to put others ahead of themselves. Texas high school football coaches are unique in how they impact the lives of these athletes as well as the generations those kids touch. In this show, I sit down with a different Texas high school football coach each time and learn about them. Not their record, not their on-field accomplishments, but who they are and what they believe and what it means to be part of the greatest sport in the greatest state. This is Season 7, Episode 6. My guest today is a coach who has coached all around Central Texas, and each time he has developed winning programs. I will be talking with Les Goad. Hey coaches, I want to tell you about a product I discovered that is going to be a game changer. Yeah, the Exploder Bar. As coaches, you want to get your athletes as strong as possible without jeopardizing their speed and quickness. The Exploder does just that. I know it sounds like marketing hype, but if you're like me, the second you see this lifting tool in action, you will recognize just how brilliant it is. Triple extension lifts are the key to more powerful movements, and the Exploder Bar was designed to allow these exercises to be performed in a safe and effective manner. And it's a great way to condition core muscle groups and ligaments. Check it out at PremierAthleticSolutions.com. The Exploder Bar is built for athletes who are looking for speed, strength, and explosion. Again, that's PremierAthleticSolutions.com. All right, everybody join me in welcoming Coach Les Goad to the show. Coach, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good.
Good. So in this show, we don't really talk about what's going on with your team now. We go back to the beginning. Tell me about where you grew up and when you discovered football.
Well, I grew up in a small town of Carlsbad, New Mexico.
Wow.
And I was a part, they started a little league football group there when I was in sixth grade. And that would have been my introduction to football. I wasn't a very big guy, but I fell in love with the game and obviously played through high school, decided at some point to walk on at Little Eastern New Mexico University. I always tell kids that you've seen the movie Rudy, it just wasn't Notre Dame, but I wouldn't trade my experiences there in college and in high school for anything. It was just a great experience, great coaches, and the camaraderie, brotherhood is something I'll cherish forever.
I love that. And when did you decide, hey, I want to do this coaching thing?
That when I was a sophomore in high school, they were doing a big push on trying to determine the path for you and career choices and college directions or trade school directions. It was 10th grade when I decided, I think I like this coaching thing. And so I really decided that early in life. I had a very unique opportunity right out of high school. Growing up in New Mexico, I actually started coaching high school football and track right out of high school. And I had an opportunity to do that for 3 years, which most people don't get that opportunity at age 17, coaching kids that are older than you that you played with the year before. So pretty unique situation.
Yeah, no doubt. I guess take us from college. Let's go stop by stop, every position you've held as a coach from then to now.
Well, I moved a little bit more in certain times than I would like to tell you, but I started as an assistant coach in Slayton, Texas, under Steve Parr. I spent 3 years there under him, and then had the opportunity to be a head football coach at a very young age. And I spent 2 years at a very small school in Nazareth, Texas. Nice. At the end of those 2 years, I really felt like, I'm making progress here, but I really feel like I need to learn some more. And I had the opportunity to go work for Bruce Bush down at Gregory Portland High School on the Coastal Bend, and spent 3 years there with them. We finished in 92. We went to the state semifinals, and of course I'm fired up again. And so I start the head coaching journey again. I take over a program that had been on hard times in Kennedy, Texas. And we ended up winning the district championship there my third year, and then opportunity came again. I moved to Southwest High School in San Antonio, and won our district championship our second and third year there. And again, opportunities keep knocking. And I took one that probably changed the course of some things. I took the job at New Braunfels Canyon High School, but I was only there 1 year. Had a 6-4 record that year, but for whatever reason, I determined not to be back. And then I went through a family situation, so I actually stepped away from coaching for a year. And the one that got me back into it, and not that I didn't want to be back in, but I made the decision to go to Liberty Hill when Jerry Vance took that job. Oh, yeah. And I'm the one that actually put on the slot tee at Liberty Hill back in 2001 under Jerry Vance. And because of family circumstance, I really needed to be located in a further south than that. And so I left again and went to San Marcos to work for Coach Bush again. And we had 3 great years there, won a district championship, knocked off Austin Westlake, where they had a 12-year district title run, and then we won it, I think it was 2003. In 2005, I get the opportunity to be a head coach again. I go to Lockhart. I was only there a couple of years, and then that's when I had the opportunity to move to Navarro. And honestly, I had no idea what Navarro was going to turn into. I was really just trying to get a little bit closer to where I was located living-wise and in family situations. So I took the job there at Navarro High School. And I was there 11 years, it became home to me, and had great teams of the 11 years. 9 of those 11 years, we won 10 or more games. So you can just imagine how much fun we were having. Some state semifinals in 2016. Got the opportunity to move back to the big school here at Hayes High School in 2018. And, of course, I've been here 5 years. And with the storybook season back in 2020, going to the state semifinals again in the 6A level. So that's kind of my story. And like I said, I probably moved a few too many times in a couple of periods in there, but it seemed like it just started.
Right. So talk to me about the jump from New Mexico to Texas. Did you know at that time, look, Texas is where I need to be?
Well, there's I don't know if you know about the southeast corner of New Mexico, but I grew up a Carlsbad caveman of all mascots. Nice. But I don't know how many places in New Mexico I would have coached other than Carlsbad. Obviously, there's some that would have worked out for me, and I'd have fell in love with those places just as much as I was in love with Carlsbad. But the truth is, everybody understands high school sports, and especially football in the state of Texas, and being that close to West Texas, there's not a whole lot of difference in that southeast corner of the state of New Mexico and West Texas. The real reason that I made that jump, though, I had a real good relationship with the principal that was the principal when I was a student at Carlsbad High School, and he had moved from Plainview, Texas, and had connection with some coaches. Steve Parr, the guy that I ultimately ended up going to work for, had worked with a guy at Plainview named Greg Sherwood. And through all those connections, I interviewed with both of those men and actually got offers by both of them, but I had taken the job at Slayton before the offer came from Plainview. But that's how I ended up in Texas, is those connection of an administrator, a school administrator that I had a relationship with that had come from Texas and had some connections, and it's just, as the old saying goes, you get to know people and develop those relationships, and it opens doors.
Definitely. And speaking of relationships, had many conversations with Troy Moses, and he loves to bring up the slot team mafia. So talk to people about that.
Well, I've never really referred to it in that term. I hear that term a lot. To be honest with you, I obviously myself as well as Troy and many others learned that offense from Bruce Bush, and Coach Bush actually they won a state championship in 1971 at Port Neches Grove under Coach Etheridge, and that's where he learned it. It's an old, tried and true offense. It has evolved. Some of us have evolved it even more. I'm not sure they would allow me to be in the Mafia anymore because I throw the ball too much. And the last 3 seasons, we haven't taken a snap under center. So it's we keep evolving those things. Some coaches hold a little bit more true to some of the original versions of it. Everybody takes it a little bit different direction. But there is a tight-knit group of guys that communicate with each other a lot and have some common mindsets about how to control a football game. And I think one of the reasons a lot of us hold on to a lot of those concepts is based on our talent levels and based on the fact that you can kind of control a game a little bit more if you can grind the ball out and keep it away from the other team. Because regardless of whether everybody realizes it or not, football's a game of keep away. If they don't have it, they can't score. So, that's really part of that philosophy of the old style of football. And fundamentally, the most physical teams typically win no matter what scheme you're using. And so we buy into that. But it is a true, as Liberty Hill continues to prove, you can go at any level to win football games using that offense.
Nice. And you've mentioned quite a few coaches. Talk about some of the relationships and things you've learned from some of the coaches you've worked with.
Well, I would have to, I'd have to start obviously with Coach Bush. I mean, as far as what I've learned and the things that I've based most of what I've done career-wise and probably owe most of the success I've had is to Coach Bush. Organizationally, Coach Bush was very well organized, and it's all a process of how to develop kids and how to develop teams and run an off season, and so I learned probably the most from him. But I'm a coach that feels like I can learn from anybody, and it'd take me a long time to go back and look through my lists of individuals about, well, this guy really emphasized this. Coach Vance up at Liberty Hill, he was very, very consistent, very basic. One of the assistants that worked under me there at Liberty Hill was Jeff Walker, and what I learned from Jeff, even though he was actually under my direction for the most part, I felt like I learned a lot from him. Coach Moses adds a lot to it. My line coach that I've had for 14 years, Aaron Postert, who is actually just retiring right now, I learned so much from him about how to make some line adjustments and do some things. But we've evolved and all learned from each other. There's a coach named Jimmy Gupton that was an assistant with us down at Gregory Portland that had been the head coach at John Jay in San Antonio years before that I felt like I learned a lot from. And guy named Pat Cahill that was a defensive coach there with us at Gregory Portland. And, I could go on and on and on. Steve Parr, even the first guy that I worked with in Texas, there's things that, one of his favorite statements was make bad jobs into good jobs. And he's not talking about a particular school, but really he's talking about the grunt that you have to do on a daily basis, make those bad jobs into good jobs. And so you learn lessons from everybody throughout the course of your career and your time. And I feel like I've been very, very fortunate to work with a lot of very good ones. But if I had to just throw out one name of who I learned most from, it'd have to be Coach Bush.
Nice. Excellent. And going back to your time in Navarro, it seemed like they went from just another team to a perennial power for a long stretch there when you were there. I can't imagine, and I knew several of the families that lived there because I lived in Wimberley at the time, so there's a lot of classes there. But it seems like there weren't a ton of superstar players coming in, so what is the difference there?
Well, I think there's a combination of a lot of things that happened. I obviously timed it just right, taking that job. We were a small 2A at the time when I first got there, and we were competing with schools like Stockdale and Karn City and Poth and those schools. And when I first got there, they actually had never been past the second round. They had only had one district championship in the history of the school. Playoffs weren't a normal thing, although, Coach Lynn Havron is who I replaced. He had actually gotten some positive things going, but they were really the stepping stone in the area for a long time. Marion was a big rival, and Marion had beaten them, 18 out of 24 years, and the margin of score was really a pretty big margin. So it wasn't a real sought-after job. It wasn't someplace that was considered a football powerhouse. I think a couple of things here. I think I did time it just right, where the population was changing a little bit. We were getting some more kids in. But what really felt like happened is the kids bought into, and the community bought into what we were trying to do. And as you notice, you'll see different schools that have done this. Liberty Hill was very similar. When I got there in 2001, they had only won 2 or 3 football games a year for a few years when Jerry Vance took over. And over time, buying into that system, most schools, if they buy into that slot T mentality and then fundamentally develop things that go along with that, you're going to be competitive. And then when you add some bigger, stronger, faster kids.
Hey, I want to talk about one of our sponsors, Ready Sports Drink. Football star Aaron Donald always brings something extra to his all-pro performances. Ready Sports Drink. It's science in a bottle. Ready Sports Drink features premium hydration with 3 dominant electrolytes, not just 1 or 2. Ready Sports Drink. Complete hydration with extra energy from super fruits and B vitamins. All this with 0 added sugar and great tasting flavors. Ready Sports Drink, the future of sports drinks. And Aaron Donald's hydration edge every time he sets foot on the field. Ready Sports Drink, now on sale at your local Dollar Tree.
And then when you add some bigger, stronger, faster kids, and then some good coaching, I think that's what kind of happens. One of the things that really helped me at Navarro, my principal, Gary Hass, had been a coach, had actually run the slot T himself, was connected with that, and he was kind of that guy that helped me, because there's always resistance when you go into a community in putting in that kind of a system, especially when they haven't been running something similar. And we had that same thing at Liberty Hill. We had that same thing at Navarro. And overcoming that resistance, you got to have a good support base. And Gary Hass definitely fought the charges for me there those early years. That first year we went 6-4, didn't even make the playoffs, was kind of marginal. We lost a really good athlete to an injury. I think we would have made the playoffs had he stayed healthy. But it was a questionable which way is this going to go. With the next year after one good off season, we ended up going 10-2, winning 10 games and going to 2 rounds in the playoffs. Really helped us to establish that. And then from then on, it just kept getting better and better and better. Had some really good kids. I mean, I can't, everybody talks about turnarounds, and I've been involved in a turnaround at Kennedy, Texas, at Southwest High School in San Antonio, there at Liberty Hill, there at Navarro, and even here at Hayes. I know Hayes had a good tradition, but the few years before we got here, they hadn't had a lot of success.
Right.
But the thing I always respond when people talk about us being responsible for a turnaround, you don't do it unless you have kids. And we've had kids everywhere I've been. I've been very fortunate. I think we get the most out of our kids, but there's no doubt that we had some good kids that came through there at the right time. And now Navarro is just, they're bought in. They're bought into a system. They're bought into a certain mindset, and they've got so much tradition behind them now that it just continues to perpetuate itself. And it wasn't easy those first couple of years. I will grant you that, but it just snowballed. When we jumped up from 3A, they changed the name from 2A to 3A, but we were still playing the same schools. But then the next year we moved up. The first year we moved up in classification, it was basically the smallest school in the state in that classification. Mm-hmm. We went from the Stockdales and Karn cities to playing Wimberley, Bernie, Canyon Lake, Fredericksburg, all of those which are very strong football programs. And quite frankly, we were a little bit concerned, were we ready for that? But lo and behold, I guess the program started taking over, because the very first year we played in Wimberley for the district championship and got beat, but then got a rematch with Wimberley in the state quarterfinals that was actually played right here at Hayes High School. The very first year we were in the classification up. And of course, we lost again that time, and Wimberley ended up winning the state championship the next year, not that year. But it was about our third year when we were in there with them when we started kind of trading off with Wimberley on wins and kind of caught up with them. But it's definitely a buy-in by a community, by a school district, and I felt like that's what happened at Navarro. And whenever I left there, a lot of people were concerned about what was going to happen, and I knew Gary Haas was not going to let it slide. As a principal, he made sure that they hired another coach that was of the same philosophy and the same kind of program, and I don't think that they'll allow any change in that area, at least in the near future. And you can see the results. It just keeps perpetuating itself.
Right on. And one of the other important pieces in any kind of turnaround or just success in general is the rest of your staff. Talk about hiring those guys and who's kind of been with you wherever you go.
Yeah, the guy I just mentioned a minute ago was with me the longest. His name was Aaron Postert. He actually had worked with us at San Marcos, and he had worked with Coach Bush down in Donna, Texas, before Coach Bush moved up to San Marcos. But we worked together on staff there at San Marcos, and then eventually when I was established there at Navarro, he came and joined me, and then he was there through most of the good years at Navarro, and then came and joined me here at Hayes, and has been there with me the last 5 years. But, I've had some good guys that worked with me. Coach Moses that worked with us at San Marcos also worked with me at Lockhart. Mark Sauceda is another coach that we've worked together in 2 or 3 places. Right now, I've got 2 on staff that have been with me, that were with me at Navarro. Coach Nick Lopez, who is my defensive coordinator now, and Robert Jones, who assists him on the defensive side of the ball. But they've been with me several years. While I was there at Navarro, Chema Chavez is another coach. Jeff Jones was my defensive coordinator, and I actually inherited him there at Navarro. He had already been there before I got there, but he transitioned over and ran our defense for several years. You're right. We've had some good guys. Right now, currently, I've got some guys on staff. One that I coached while he was in high school, Elijah Gonzalez, who's here with me and a good slot T guy. Somebody that I never actually worked with. I've tried to hire him a couple of times. He's actually at Liberty Hill now, but Paul Kilby was a guy that we would correspond with and talk, and he's probably in that slot T mafia crew that you refer to, but he's a guy that we never really actually worked together, but we worked in common places. It seemed like he followed me in a couple of places, but you've got that continuity, and that's always important. Another guy that was there at Navarro, Donnie Slatter, that ended up retiring at Navarro, did a great job, and there's a lot of guys that you do have to build that program. You know, if I had to pick one school in our area that has had that longevity, it'd have to be Smithson Valley under Larry Hill. And part of his longevity is the fact that he's had a staff that stayed with him for as long as they have. Just like Hayes High School, you know, Coach Shelton and the staff he had here for a long, long time. When you get that kind of continuity, it really helps. And I know Liberty Hill's experiencing that right now as well.
Definitely. But invariably, you do have to hire new young coaches as some retire. What I've seen, a lot of the new young coaches coming in, they all want to be in the big chair at the 6A school instantly. How do you get them to chill out and pay their dues?
Well, you know, you have conversations with them, but sometimes that doesn't do the trick. You know, I think sometimes they just have to learn, and I have to admit I was guilty of trying to get on the fast track too early. As I mentioned, I got a head coaching job at a very small school in my fourth year of coaching here in Texas. But thank goodness I came to realization that I probably needed to go somewhere where I could get a little bit more knowledge, experience, and got under Bruce Bush, thank goodness. But I think that realization, sometimes you just got it's hard knocks. You know, sometimes somebody makes a move or two and then they figure things out. Sometimes it works out for them really, really early. I know, you know, I don't think there's a number of years of experience or an age where, okay, they're ready. I think some personalities are ready a lot earlier than others, and then some others, that's really not the role that's best for them or that even that they want, you know. But I do agree with you that too many times we're trying to move up too fast instead of going through the process and enjoying the process. That's another piece of it is too many people are constantly trying to find a new position rather than enjoying the one they've got. Right.
And at the end of the day, the most important thing you guys do is take care of and teach kids. You've got coaches who have been at the same place for 25 years who, they get to know the kids. They get to know the kids' kids, you know, their grandkids.
Right.
When you switch schools like you have, I would assume you don't get as deep into that relationship, but you must have some that you're still tight with that you knew from several jobs ago.
Absolutely. You know, I was one of the ones that was really resistant to the social media world, you know, and then I don't know how many years back it is that I finally gave in and had my wife set me up on Facebook. And one of the best things that I felt like from that is just reconnecting with so many people that either I went to school with actually and played with myself or people that I coached, especially ones that, you know, from the West Texas area. I have a great relationship with a young man that I coached in my second and third year of coaching that was from back at Slayton, Texas, that I'm very close with now. And I'm close. I've got people from San Marcos to Lockhart to Liberty Hill and now Hayes, Southwest High School. The good thing is that because of our world today, you can stay connected, where once upon a time when you moved away, you didn't see those people or communicated with them very much at all. But
right.
it is a great thing that we keep those relationships, and I'm one that especially it seems like the early years, I'm very close to a lot of those I won't call them kids anymore because they're
right.
they're grown men right now, but it's definitely one of the rewards of this business is developing those relationships and just staying connected with them.
Right on. And finally, Coach, our game's kind of under attack from a lot of different areas. What do you think are some of the biggest threats we have facing us now?
I'm one that, as you're talking about that concern for kids, I always tell my coaches, your job is to win games, but your mission is to reach kids. I mean, that's what we're here for. We're here to reach kids. And what my biggest concern is the disservice we're doing for kids and their upbringing with the specialization. So I could, that question you just asked, I could talk to you for hours on that topic, I'm sure, but just to hit a few of the highlights, I think number one is this mindset of I'm just and you just fill in the blank. I'm just a football player. I'm just a baseball player. I'm just a basketball player. I think that is the worst thing that can happen to a young man or a young lady in their sports as well. I want you to have a great school experience, and I want you to be an athlete. I want you to participate, be a multi-sport athlete. I think this specialization world is really a detriment to our kids, to our programs. And part of the driving force behind that, I know there's lots of different pieces, but one of the driving forces behind it is the club sports. And if I'm a club coach and you're paying me, $1,500 every 3 months to coach, I'm certainly going to tell you all you should be doing is this sport. And I really believe that these outside leagues, I'm not going to say there's no benefit to getting more work and doing some things, but playing baseball year round or playing basketball year round or playing volleyball year round, I just don't think that's a positive thing for a kid. And I don't think it's positive for our programs for sure. I think that's a big threat. I think one of the new big threats is the money is trickle down that's starting to hit.
Yeah.
They just, in my opinion, they just devastated college athletics by this NIL thing and the way that it's going to go, because it's just turning into pro sports. Yep. As it trickles down and seeps into the high school level, the recruiting and the changing for athletic purposes and playing for money rather than the camaraderie and the love of the game, that's another element that I think is a detriment, and we're going down the wrong direction. Again, I could talk on this subject for a long time, but if I was going to identify just a couple of things, I think the specialization and then the influence of the almighty dollar in high school sports, I think is a problem that's we're just going to see the tip of the iceberg right now, because it's coming this direction.
I agree. It's getting scary, that's for sure. Coach Les Goad, guys, I want to thank you so much for sitting down with me, sharing some of your history and your insights.
Well, I appreciate it. And I'm kind of an open book guy. Sometimes I'm a little bit too honest, but I appreciate your time.
Oh, you bet.
Did you play Texas high school football? If you did, you're part of an elite group, the Brotherhood of Texas High School Football. All football players, past and present, who have ever suited up in the Lone Star State are eligible. Go to LoneStarGridiron.com/brotherhood. And thank you for the part you played in the greatest sport in the greatest state.
Until next time, I'm Chris Daly, and we'll see you at the game. Hey, if you're involved in your team's fundraising, get this. I was recently introduced to Success Fund, and I was blown away by what it can do. If you're not already using Success Fund to manage your fundraising, you'll really want to check this out. SuccessFund.com. That's Success, F-U-N-D.com. It's not a specific fundraiser, no. Now, Success Fund is a platform with free tools that makes it easy to run whatever fundraiser you're already planning. Sponsorships, donations, camps, clinics, whatever it is. Success Fund makes it 10 times easier. Plus, schools use it to accept Venmo, which is otherwise not an option. Because so many thousands of fundraisers have been through their system, these guys know what works and what doesn't. And they just put out a free high school football fundraising guide. Yeah, you can go and download the guide for free at successfund.com/football. It takes 2 seconds to grab it. Again, you want to be sure to check these guys out. But at the very least, go grab this free football fundraising guide at successfund.com/football.